I'm Jack Watson, UI UX designer, illustrator, animator, donut connoisseur. Welcome to Adobe Live. We're going to be looking at proximity and repetition for today's design challenge in Illustrator. We're making a menu for Pizza Box Nachos, a Pizza Box Nachos restaurant. If you don't know what that is, there's one in my neighborhood, and basically you build your own nachos from ingredients they have and they assemble them in a pizza box to go. It's a pretty cool concept. Let me know in the chat if you've got any name suggestions. I've got a couple coming in already. Nacho Libre, of course, a couple nacho puns coming in. Nacho average name, love that. Let's go ahead and find our starter files in the meantime. Check the links below in the description of this video. You'll see links to download the starter files for today. You'll see links for our Illustrator Discord as well as other challenges. But let's get into it. So our starter file has some text for you to get started. Let me make sure I'm actually got Illustrator selected there. You could feel free to delete all of this content out and start from scratch if you'd like. I just wanted to give you something to get going with for today. We've also got some guides in here, which we'll get into in a second, as well as some notes. I always put these notes in for you. Yes, I see Sour screaming nacho as well. These notes are for you to reference as you're working on this if you need to. There are going to be things that we're going over in the challenge, as well as some of the tools that we are going to be talking about. So down below, I've also got a text hierarchy for you. So we've got a larger text style for our titles or our logo or our company, brand name for our restaurant, and then we've got some other sizes here. We've got a section title. This can be like your H1, and then we've got an item and a description. So we're already starting to establish some hierarchy here. When you're assembling your menu, you want to try and keep these text styles consistent. So feel free to use this as a guide for setting up your fonts if you'd like. Makes it easier when people are kind of looking at your menu over here to just kind of scan it. So looking at our menu, there's a very clear order of operations. Even if we hid these numbers here, if we didn't have the numbers, or we just kind of deleted them for the time being. Even if we deleted the numbers, we still kind of understand based on the text hierarchy that these are the main steps in the process, followed by this information, and then followed by this information. So it's easy for the viewer to automatically kind of scan this. We've also kind of got these groups that we've started to establish here. We've got the base, and then we can tell that everything underneath the base, this headline here, is going to be associated with our headline text, and that is based on their proximity. So proximity is the distance between our elements, how close or how far away they are to each other, and the viewer will automatically associate things that are closer together as being related to each other. Things that are farther apart are in separate groups. So our protein here, if I hide this template here for a sec, you'll be able to see a little bit better. If we zoom out, even if we didn't know what these things said, we would understand that these items, based on their distance to each other, are related to each other, even if these were, for example, boxes. So if I grab the rectangle tool and I draw out a box and I just cover up these items, you're going to be able to tell just by looking at them. Let's make sure we bring that down a little bit farther. You're going to be able to tell just by looking at them that these are groups of elements based on their proximity to each other, both individually as well as kind of like as a set here. So you can kind of already see. And this is a good way to set up a composition if you wanted to. If you didn't know what kind of text you wanted to have yet, but you knew generally the number of items that you wanted to have, or you wanted to think about how do I want to organize my content, you can actually use boxes like this, and then you can replace the boxes with the text if you want. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get rid of all of those boxes, and we're going to start to add our ingredients. So to get started here, we're going to need a base, and you can see the hang on a sec. You can see that the box prices vary depending on the size, but the base items are going to be consistent. So if you were doing like a more like a taco style place, you might have like tortilla, you might have like rice, or maybe like a salad option, or if this was like a burger place, maybe different types of buns. I'm going to go ahead and list out. We've got tortilla chips, we could do potato chips, chips or fries if you're in the UK, or we could do tater tots. Everybody loves tater tots. And I'm just gonna, so I just selected with the type tool, I selected my text and then I overrode it by typing in those items. I can also use Command C, which is going to copy. Command or Control C is going to copy the text that I have selected. Again, with the type tool, double clicking to select my description and using Command or Control V to override those descriptions. Now I've got the same text kind of in each of these areas. And then going down here, again, I'm just going to kind of go through this relatively quickly so we can get into some more things. I'm going to quickly add some protein items here. Now for these, you're going to see that these are using our section text because each one of these may have a different price. So we could put down here that like chicken, maybe that adds a certain, you know, value on. And I can, again, double clicking, I select all of my text with the type tool, Command C to copy. I'm just going to go ahead and paste them all in here so I'm keeping a consistent style. And then I'm going to go down, we can add some different options. I can paste that in again, we can type in veggies. And you can feel free to go through and add, honestly, you know, as many of these as you want. They can, like I said, maybe this is a burger restaurant, or maybe you've got like I've seen you could do like a maybe even like a pizza place. I've seen you could do like pizza toppings. Been on a pizza kick lately. And then for this last one, I'm gonna put no protein. And we can do the same thing down here. Cheese, we can have Vegeta, we could do Chihuahua, we could do black beans, pinto beans. I'm just quickly going through here. Definitely need jalapenos, if I can type it. Jalapenos, there we go. I think I spelled it wrong still. All right, onion, you know, tomato. And we can do here like tomatillo, pico de gallo, you get the idea. All right, I'm not gonna go through and add a ton of things. I just wanted to get some items on here. Nacho burger, love that idea, Oliver, I'm here for it. So I've got all of my kind of text in here. We need to add our logo or name, so this would be a good opportunity. Let's take a look and see if we've got some the plural of tater tots is, the tater tot is tater tot. Okay, well, I guess I have to remove the S. Anyway, I'm gonna make sure to put my name in now. So let's see what we got here for names. I'm gonna grab that. I'm gonna type in, I'm just gonna put something for placeholder for now. I'm just gonna put Nacho Lab, like the Taco Lab. Like the Taco Lab, like the Donut Lab in New York, if you know what that is. And then I'll wait to see if we've got some, oh, nacho average nachos. I like that. Nacho average nachos. We need to make it a little bit smaller. Or we could break this onto 2 lines. Actually, let's see here. I'm just gonna scale it down. It's fine. As long as it's larger than my main text, it'll still be okay. All right, so we've got our text in here. Now remember that I've got these guides in here to split my composition into 4 parts. Honestly, I would probably bring these down a little bit to give a little bit of space between my title text and my bases. So I'm just going to drag these down, basically center aligning my step numbers with my guides here. And these guides are for your reference. They're not going to export out with your file, so you don't have to worry about these you know, being visible in the final file if you leave them on. If they're getting too distracting, you'll notice that a couple of times now I've gone over to my template layer over here and I've just clicked on this little eye, and that's gonna hide, oh my gosh, hide our template there. Okay, and the other thing that I want to do is I think I want to bring these up a little bit more, so I'm just gonna drag to select my ingredients, holding down Shift to select all of these groups. I'm gonna use, I can use my up and down arrows to move these. So I'm gonna move them a little bit closer to my headlines, and that's also gonna leave a little bit more space between my groups. So now I'm just reinforcing that these elements are grouped together and adding a bit more space to visually separate them. And yes, over on the Adobe Live YouTube and on Behance, we've got a live chat where you can hang out with everybody. If you're watching the replay, you can also leave comments on YouTube as well, so feel free to say hi, ask questions. Nacho clock. What time is it? Nacho clock. Thanks, Clever. Appreciate the puns. Clever, yeah, Clever loves tacos, so I'm glad Clever's here hanging out with us. I'm sure Clever's got a ton of taco puns and nacho puns. All right, so we've already got some repetition going on. So we talked about proximity, we set up our groups in our hierarchy, now let's talk about repetition. So we've already got some repetition going on by keeping our text styles consistent. We're using the same font styles and sizes for all of our headlines. Now let's add some design elements to our art layer. So over here in your layers, you can see I've got copy, that's where all your text lives. And to make sure that all of our artwork stays behind our copy, you're going to want to add your artwork to your art layer there. All right, so what's the most obvious shape we can kind of play around with? We're going to play around with just simple shapes today. A triangle, right? We got to have a triangle chip to match our nachos. So we're going to go over to our shapes panel. You may see a different shape here instead of the rectangle. You may see the ellipse tool, but whatever shape you see, if you click and hold on that, you're going to be able to see all of the different shape tools. And I'm going to switch to the polygon tool today. So we're going to switch to the polygon. Once I've got it kind of hovered over, I'm going to release. And with the polygon tool, when I drag out a polygon, if I increase or decrease using my up and down arrows, that's going to increase and decrease the number of sides. So we can go up to get more sides, we can go down to get fewer sides. We want to go all the way down until we get 3 sides for a triangle. And then you can hold down Shift, and when you do that, it's going to constrain your shape so you're not ending up with a strange rotation to start with. You may want to, we're going to rotate these, but we're going to start with a straight constrained shape to begin with. And then I'm going to go over here, and it's a little bit hard to see, but next to our fill and stroke, you can actually click on this default fill and stroke. It's like a mini icon of the regular fill and stroke, and that's going to reset this back to the white fill and black stroke. And I'm going to go ahead and make a copy. I'm going to hit Command or Control C, and I'm going to hit Command or Control F to copy and paste in front. So now I've got 2 shapes on top of each other, and I'm going to separate them a little bit, again, using the arrow keys, a little bit to the left, a little bit up. The arrow keys, again, are going to move, depending on which arrow key you use, it's going to move this shape around. So we're going to just offset it a little bit. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove that fill, either from selecting none down here, or you can select it from your swatches panel. So I've got no fill on this. Now we can see that other shape through our other triangle. So now I've just got a stroke on that, so there's no fill, so it's coming through. And then clicking on my other shape, double clicking on the fill color, we got to make this a yellow chip, right? Golden yellow, lovely tortilla chip. Okay, then I'm going to bring my stroke to the front, and we're just going to set that to none as well. So now I've got this cool kind of like offset print kind of look to it. Final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these and use Command G. I'm going to use a keyboard shortcut here to group these, but you can also go to Object, Group in the Object menu there. All right, so now we've got our shape. Let's start to lay this out. So I'm going to just make a bunch of copies of these. Again, where we want to have this element of repetition. So maybe we'll have one kind of like right over our title text here. We could actually probably make like a little design element up here. We could also use this to kind of act. It not only is it like a tortilla chip, but it also kind of creates a an arrow, right? So we can use that to kind of help guide our viewer, reinforce this idea by, I'm just using Command C and Command V to make copies, pointing them to the different steps. And if we wanted to align these, I'm going to hold down Shift and I'm going to select all of these. And then I'm going to select my Align to Artboard option from my control bar and just center. That's going to center everything on my artboard. There we go. All right, and let's add some variation to this design. I'm going to go over here. Oh, there's one thing I want to mention before we get too far into it. Make sure, and you can get to this from your Properties panel, if you don't have anything selected, so just, I don't have anything selected. If I have something selected, the options are going to change. But if you don't have anything selected, you want to make sure that Scale, Strokes, and Effects is unchecked. At least I do. I guess it's up to your personal preference, but I want to keep these lines on my triangles, I don't want them to change weight. I want the weight to be consistent as I'm scaling them. So Command C and Command V, let me just kind of demo that for you for a sec. If you don't have that, that's turned on, when I scale this up and when I scale it down, you're going to notice that that stroke weight changes pretty significantly, and that is not consistent and not repetition. So now we've got a stroke weight that is 3 points, and there are going to be times when you want to turn this on and off as you're working, but for this specific design, I'm going to have it turned off. All right, so repetition is good, but also we want to have a little bit of movement. We don't want to have everything just kind of be sort of, boring on this design. We want it to feel a little bit playful and a little bit fun. So I'm going to start to kind of place these, kind of varying the rotation, kind of varying the size. We're just going to kind of make them look like these chips are scattered over our composition here. A little bit of playfulness. And again, I'm just using copy and paste, using Command and Control V to copy and paste. But you could go up and you could use the menu command under Edit. And Keys is saying this menu doesn't look very international. Well, I'm doing my best here. I'm doing my best. If you guys have suggestions for ingredients, you're welcome to share those as well. All right, so we've got some elements in here. I want to add a couple more to this as well. Just for a little bit of contrast, I'm going to go over and I'm going to switch to my ellipse tool here. So we've got some circles already with our steps, so we can add those circle elements again, repetition, repeating those design elements to create a cohesive design. I'm going to just draw out some circles on my art layer. So dragging out with the ellipse tool, holding down Shift is going to create a perfect circle. I don't want, ovals because my base or my step numbers are perfect circles. So I'm going to draw one out there. I'm going to go over here and switch my fill and stroke so we get just a filled shape, and then we'll change the color of this. Now, I'm going to go with probably a complementary color, maybe like you could go with like a purple. Basically, a complementary color is something that's like opposite our color on the color wheel. So since we're using gold, opposite of that kind of gold color would be like a purple or a blue. So we're kind of using opposite colors, basically a cooler color. I actually think I like the blue a little bit more, something like that. And the one more thing we need to do is, even though it's on our art layer and it's behind our copy, we need to go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back. And that's going to put our shape kind of behind our little chips there. I'm going to do the same thing. We go down here and we'll add a couple more. So we're just kind of varying the placement and the size of these, just adding a little bit of visual interest to the background, keeping it consistent with our design by keeping the shapes matching what we've already kind of established. All right, so we've got a bunch of elements in here. I want to move on to show you this really cool tool. I recently learned about this, but it's really, really handy when you're working on something that has a lot of repetition in it and you want to make changes. So we like the general look of this, but let's say we want to add just a little bit more to this. So if we go over to our properties panel, I mentioned this a little bit before, but the properties panel, it changes. The options change in the properties panel depending on the thing you have selected. So if we select some text here, we're going to get text options. We're going to get the character and the paragraph panel options kind of placed inside of this properties panel. The same thing goes for shapes. If we select shapes, we're going to get shape tools over here. What we're going to take a look at today is actually, if we select one of our shapes, I'm going to go down and I'm going to use this Start Global Edit. And when I click on that, you'll notice that my original object is highlighted in pink, and the other objects that match the look of my original shape are also highlighted. So any changes that I make, if I scale this down, those shapes are going to scale proportionally. But the really cool thing about this is you can use this with groups. So if I select my chip, my little nacho chip, we'll select this one over here so it's a little bit easier to see, and I choose Start Global Edit, it's going to select all of those groups. And so now I can scale this up, I can scale this down, And that change is going to be reflected, even though it's a group of objects, still recognizes and selects those same objects and lets me kind of edit them. I can rotate them around. I can also change the color. So if we wanted to, with my object here selected, I'm going to go in here and with the direct selection tool, I'll select my stroke. Let's say the dark is a little bit overwhelming, so we're going to make it maybe a little bit lighter. I'm going to double click into my stroke here, and we're going to change this to maybe like a red-orange. And when I hit OK, it's applied that same change to my stroke color across all of my objects. Now let's say we deselect, so I deselected everything, we got out of our global edit. I'm going to just go through here, I'm going to select a couple of these chips here, and we're going to change, I'm holding down shift with the direct selection tool. I'm just going to select a couple of these, and we're going to change the fill color on these. So I'm going to double click into this, and we're going to make these more of a, we'll go maybe like more of a pink. That looks good to me. Okay, so now we've got chips that are yellow, and now we've got chips that are red. If I do the same thing and I select one of my chips and I go to start global edit, it still selects the shapes. So in this case with the global edit, because I'm still selecting the same shapes, the colors, the same objects, the colors don't matter. So I can still select all of the same objects even though they're different colors, and I can make edits to them. If you wanted to only select the red objects, we could go over to our global edit. In this drop-down window, we can say, I want you to match the appearance. So that's going to take into account the stroke color and the fill color. So if I turn that on, it deselects all of my yellow shapes, and I can just focus on making changes to my red chips. So you can use kind of these filters, so you can edit either by the objects, or you can then kind of filter down into the colors as well, the appearance as well. So I don't know, I think that's a really cool option for making edits to something like this, a menu that's got like a lot of repeating elements. If you don't want to, you could use the select same menu, but generally speaking, you can either pick like same appearance or quite the same way that the global edit works. So. Okay, so do we got how much time do we got? We have time for a couple more things. Let's kind of reinforce this. We've got our nachos, but the nachos are getting a little bit lost with these big circles. So let's reinforce that idea. I'm going to add another element here by switching to the line tool. Over here, you can see you got a couple of options down here, but you're going to want the line segment tool. And I'm just going to drag along the side of my artboard here, holding shift to create a vertical line. Actually, let's start over here. I think it might be a little bit easier for you to see. So we're going to drag out a line, holding a shift. I'm going to eyedropper my blue, so I'm going to use the blue color on this, and we're going to go to Effects. We're going to go to Distort and Transform and Zigzag. And this is going to create sort of a zigzag line. Under these settings here, the size is going to increase like the height, how intense the zigzag is. And then the ridges is going to increase the number of points. Similar to how we increased using the up and down arrows, the number of sides on our polygon, we can do a similar thing here with the ridges per segment. And honestly, I think it'll look better if we it'll look better if we have an even number of points all the way down, so we get those nice triangles. And I'm going to increase the size of this. I just want it to kind of be close to the same shape, consistency, repetition as our little chips. And we'll hit OK. We'll move it over a little bit. And then I'm going to use Command-C and Command-F again to copy and paste in front. Or actually, we don't have to. We'll select that line and go to Object, Transform, and Reflect. And in this case, I want to use a horizontal reflect so I can get the other side. And instead of hitting OK, I'm going to hit Copy. And that's going to make a copy for me that I can drag over here. Now at this point, you're probably thinking, Jack, your artboard looks totally crazy. What are you doing? But don't worry about it. So because we're working on something for print, my design is going to get trimmed to this artboard. And I'm kind of letting things fall off of the edges of my artboard so that when it gets trimmed, it's going to print edge to edge. So I can preview what this is going to look like when it prints by going to View and Trim View. And that's going to hide everything outside of my artboard so I can get a look at what it looks like. And if you accidentally hit this and you have no idea what you did, just go back to view and make sure that trim view is checked off. But it's a really handy way to kind of take a look and see what it's going to look like when it prints, just so you can make sure. It's a little bit hard with those like zigzag lines to see kind of how they're looking. Maybe they look a little bit intense, but then when we go into trim view, they actually look pretty good like this. So there you go. Speaking of, once you're ready to share this, you're going to go to File, Export, Export for Screens, and you're either going to pick a PNG or a JPEG. You're going to export that out, join our Illustrator Discord. The links again are in the description below, and you're going to just drag this into our Discord, and you can share with everybody, get feedback from the community. It's a really great place to hang out. But that is unfortunately all the time we have today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today for an Illustrator Design Challenge. We went over using proximity and repetition in our designs to create a cohesive and easy to read menu, as well as modifying our design using Global Edit on these repeated elements. We're live once a week on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific time at behance.net/Adobe Live and on the Adobe Live YouTube channel. So stay tuned for more live content coming up right after me. Bye everyone!